Well, good evening, everyone. My name is Hugh Little, and I am the sales wizard at Red Cap Sales Coaching, where you can learn to make selling easy, fun, and profitable. I want to express my appreciation to you for taking your time to be on the webinar tonight. There are hundreds, maybe even thousands of other things that you could be out doing tonight, and you've chosen to be here to listen to this webinar, and I am most appreciative that you've chosen to spend your time with me. I'd like to spend about a year talking with you about sales, and unfortunately, this webinar is only 90 minutes long. And so we're only going to be able to touch the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg tonight. There's so much more to be said about successful selling than we're going to be able to cover tonight. I'm going to do my very best in this next 90 minutes to pack just as much value as I possibly can into this webinar. I want to try to give you information that you can take back to your office tomorrow morning and put into action so that the result will be that your sales will increase and your income will increase dramatically. So some of the things that we're going to talk about this evening, first of all, we're just going to talk about the mindset that you need to have for success in selling. Mindset is so very vitally important. In fact, it may be the most important thing in successful selling. We're also going to talk about portions of the sales conversation. We're going to kind of see an overview of those. And then we're going to talk about some specific strategies that you can use for client retention to hang on to the clients that you develop in your practice. And then what I'd like to do for a couple of minutes is just tell you a little bit about a new program that's coming out shortly called the Elite Sales Academy. And it's an online sales training program that is going to be absolutely phenomenal. And I'd like to tell you just a little bit about that and how you can take advantage of it. And then we're going to go back and we're going to talk about the three things that you really need to know in order to achieve consistent long-term success in selling. So that's kind of the plan for tonight. Stick with me to the end because, like most webinar presenters, I've saved the very, very best part for the end of the webinar. Before we get into mindset, I know that there are some of you out there who may have even more experience in financial services than I do. Now, I've been selling for the last 44 years, and I spent 19 of those years in financial services. I started off selling life insurance, and then I sold life and casualty insurance, and then I worked for IDS American Express for 5 years, and I did insurance and mutual funds and partnerships. And then I helped a friend of mine start a boutique financial planning firm, and we literally offered everything: financial planning, estate planning, casualty insurance, life insurance, real estate, partnerships, stocks and bonds, mutual funds. So just a tremendous variety of financial services in the 19 years that I spent in the industry. Let me just say, for those of you who are, in particular, who are insurance agents, that I so much appreciate the job that you do. What you do for people and the product that you sell is so absolutely vital. And I'll tell you a story about the day that I really got into the insurance industry. this was in the early 70s, and I was working for a company in the Los Angeles area, and I had a debit route. Now, they don't have those anymore, I don't think. But I had to go around to the people on my route, and I had to collect money from them on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. And then I was also selling insurance to them and to their neighbors and to their friends and so on. I went out on a Friday night and sold a $100,000 life insurance policy to a young couple who had 4 children. It was a $100,000 policy, and in the 70s, that was an awful lot of money. That was a lot of insurance. It was a lot of premium. It was a lot of commission. And I got back to the office the next Monday, and I walked into the office, and this will just tell you how long it's been since this happened. The secretary walked up and handed me one of those old pink telephone message slips and said, "You got a call this morning." And it was from the woman, from the couple that I had sold the insurance to on Friday. And I immediately thought, oh no, they've decided not to go forward. They're going to cancel. And I called her up, and when she answered the telephone, and I identified myself, she said, "Hugh, you're not going to believe this. John died on Sunday night from a massive heart attack." Now, John was just in his early 30s. Well, this was back in the days where you could bind coverage very often without a medical examination, and I had bound coverage on the policy. And so a couple of weeks later, I went out to their house and I handed her a check for $100,000. When you're in the financial services industry, whether it's insurance, whether it's investments, whether it's real estate, whether it's banking, when you're working with other people's money and you are providing, if you're doing it well, you're providing such an incredible service for them. And I appreciate that so much. And I want you to know how much I appreciate and value you because of the job that you do. I've been there, I've done that. Now, as I mentioned, there may be some of you who have been in the financial services industry longer than I have, and you've been selling longer than I have, maybe. Only 44 years for me. So I always like to tell this story about Andre Segovia. Andre Segovia was the world's premier classical guitarist for a good part of his life. There wasn't anybody better than him. There never had been anybody better than him, and I'm doubtful that there ever will be anybody that plays classical guitar better than Andre Segovia did. When Segovia was 80 years old, he was still practicing his guitar 3 hours a day. And somebody asked him, "Andre, why do you practice so much? Everybody else in the world is trying really, really hard to be just half as good as you are. Why are you practicing so much?" And Segovia said something very profound. He said, "You know, I think I'm beginning to notice a little improvement." And when Segovia was 93 years old, he passed away. When he passed away, he was still booked at Carnegie Hall in New York. He was still that good at that age. Now, the moral to the story, I think, is fairly evident, and that is that no matter how old we get or how good we get at what we do, we still have room to learn and grow every day. So if you're a veteran, if you've been doing what you're doing for a very long time, I really do hope that you still are learning and growing. I must tell you that even though I coach salespeople, I read everything I can get my hands on that has to do with sales. I watch DVDs. I listen to webinars. I go to workshops. And last year, I even had a sales coach who worked with me and coached me because I'm 66 years old and I've been selling for a very long time, and I still have room to learn and grow. And I believe that you do too. And so I appreciate you being here tonight. Mindset is vitally important when we're talking about sales. How do you see yourself when you think about yourself as a salesperson? I've had financial services people tell me in the past, oh, I don't sell anything. I just share ideas with people. I'm just an educator. I don't really sell. Now, the little girl in this picture sees herself very clearly. What you see is what you get. The reflection is really true. She's seeing what's really real about her. Sometimes, though, people look in the mirror and what they see looking back at them isn't what's really true. It's not what's really real at all. In fact, I've been told that people who have eating disorders very often look at themselves in the mirror and they think that they're just terribly, terribly overweight and really need to lose more pounds. And we look at them and think, oh my goodness, they're just skin and bones. And if they don't get a sandwich sometime in the next 15 minutes, they're going to die. And so what do you see when you look in the mirror of your mind and you think about yourself as being a salesperson? How do you feel about that? And maybe more importantly, how do you think that other people see you when they think about you as being an insurance salesperson or an investment salesperson or a real estate salesperson? How do you think they view you? Is it like this? Is it the stereotypical used car salesman that is obnoxious and rude and tries to get you to buy things that you don't want and maybe something that's not very good for you and just argues with you and really gives you a tough time? You know, most everybody I know would rather do almost anything than go buy a car because they don't like the way that car salesmen sell. And yet one of the best sales experiences that I ever had when purchasing a car was with a used car salesperson. He was tremendous. And so the stereotype doesn't always hold true. But is that how you think of yourself, if you think of yourself as a salesperson at all? Or are you afraid that that's how other people may see you? Because you see, most of us have had experience with that pushy, aggressive salesperson that was just obnoxious. And we don't want anybody to think that we're that way. Or is it a matter of this next fellow here who talks and talks and talks and talks and he won't shut up and he won't leave and you can't get rid of him? And I love the guy back in the corner going, ah! Is that how you think of yourself as a salesperson, or is that how you're afraid that other people think about you when they know that you're an insurance salesperson or an investment salesperson? When you're going out to sell, are you thinking of the upcoming sales conversation as being a competition that somebody has to win and somebody has to lose? And boy, you better win because you need the commission and you need the sale and you have to do business and you have to get them to do what you want them to do? Or maybe are you afraid that that's how your prospective client is viewing the sales conversation? That it's a contest and somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose and they're not going to buy from you because they don't want to lose the contest. I'm afraid that happens all too often. These two young ladies are two of the best salespeople that I ever coached. I was a sales manager at a local dairy up in Colorado at the time, and these were two of my best salespeople. They were awesome. Just look at those faces. Do they look like a couple of people that would be fun to sit down and have a conversation with? Let me assure you that they are. They are funny. They're personable. They're just lovely. They're still really good friends of mine. I see them every time I go up to Colorado, chat with them on the telephone from time to time. They're just terrific. So when you think about yourself as being a salesperson, Do you think about yourself as being somebody that it would be, anybody would have a good time sitting down having a conversation with? I hope that that's how you're thinking about yourself as a salesperson. Because you see, in order to be successful at sales, first of all, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe that you're a great salesperson. You have to believe that you're a great person, period. That you're somebody that people would love to talk to. Secondly, you have to believe in your company. You have to believe that your company treats their clientele right, that they do what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it, that they provide great customer service, that they really care about their clients and want the very best for them and strive to give them the very best. If you don't work for a company like that, the best suggestion that I can give you tonight is leave and go find a company that you can feel that way about. Another thing that's really important about your company is how do they treat you and how do they treat the other employees? How do they treat the other salespeople? What's going on with that company? What's their integrity level like? If it's not high, don't work for them. Go find a company that you can be proud of. And finally, you need to be totally confident that your product or your service is the very best available anywhere. That people couldn't do any better buying the product or service that you provide from anybody else. That you're giving them the very, very best. If you're confident in all three of those things, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. It can be mom and pop in the shop down the street. It can be the president of a Fortune 500 company. It doesn't matter. You can go into that sales conversation feeling totally confident and with no fear whatsoever. If you feel that way about yourself, about your company, and about your product or service. So many times I hear salespeople say, "Oh, I don't really want to sell anything. I just want to help people, or I just want to serve people. That's what I'm all about." And it's noble to want to help, and it's noble to want to serve. And in the financial services industry, you do that every single day. You have the potential to do that for every single person that you come into contact with. I hear other people say sometimes, "Well, I'm not a salesperson. I'm just an educator. I just want to teach people. I want to help them really handle their money well, or I want to help them, understand what insurance is about, or what investments are about, and how to do it right. I'm just an educator. I'm not a salesperson." And I want to make this suggestion to you. You may know more about insurance or investment or real estate than anybody in your city, anybody in your state, anybody in the country. You may have gotten the most incredible sales education or financial education available anyplace. You may have an MBA. You may have a doctorate in something. You may know more about your subject and be better versed than any of your competition ever could be. And if you don't have any clients, it doesn't do anybody any good. If you don't go out and make a sale to somebody, if you don't show them why it's to their benefit, if you're not able to clearly communicate to them what's in it for them to work with you and take advantage of the products that you have available to them, you can have all of the knowledge in the world and it doesn't mean a thing. I believe that you owe it to yourself, to your family, to your company, and to the prospective clients that you're out talking to be absolutely tremendous at selling. You have to sell. So become great at it. Do it better than anybody else. Very often, salespeople lack confidence because they're just not sure what to say. They don't know how to ask somebody for an appointment. They don't know what to say when the sales conversation actually starts. I talk to so many salespeople who say, well, I do a really good job of building rapport and I just get along with people and we just have great conversations. And then when it's time to transition into talking to them about business, I just don't know what to say. I don't know how to do that. And I just feel so awkward. Knowing what to say is absolutely vital if you're going to be great at sales. You have to know how to have a sales conversation. Now, I want you to notice that I'm talking about sales conversations, not sales presentations. Very often, sales trainers and sales coaches talk about how to do a great sales presentation. And I want to suggest to you that in this day and age, it's very rare that you would ever want to do a sales presentation. Maybe if you were presenting to the board of a Fortune 500 company, you would want to do a presentation where you're just up in front of people talking and showing them charts and graphs and doing a very formal proposal. Most of the time, outside of that scenario, and maybe even sometimes within that scenario, it's important in this day and time to be genuine, to just be able to relate to the people that you're talking with and to have them relate to you as a real person who understands their needs. It's important to be able to carry on a really great conversation, and a conversation implies that there's more than one party involved in that process. And so having a great sales conversation means that you spend time listening as well as talking. And as a matter of fact, it's my opinion that if you're spending more time telling people about your product or your service and how it works and about your company and about yourself, if you're spending more time doing that than you are asking people questions about their situation and their needs and their feelings and their wants and their goals and their challenges, you're committing sales malpractice. Selling is more about asking questions and listening than it is about telling people things. So knowing what to say is extremely important. More than that, knowing how you're going to say what you're going to say is absolutely vital. And knowing when you're going to say what you're going to say is tremendously important as well. Back in 1964, there was a study that was conducted at UCLA. I can't tell you the name of the professor that conducted the study because his name is Eastern European, and even if I could remember it, I probably couldn't pronounce it correctly. You can find that, though, if you Google a study on communication from 1964, you'll find that study. And what that study determined is that when it comes to communicating emotion and ideas, the words that are said are only 7% of the process. The way that we say what we say, the voice inflection and the tonality that we use is about 38% of the process. And the remainder, over 50%, is body language and facial expression when it comes to communicating emotion and ideas. When we're selling, that's exactly what we're doing. We're communicating emotion and ideas. And so I want to submit to you that it's very important for us to have a script to work with and not just wing it. A lot of salespeople don't like to use a script. They think that it sounds canned. Well, the great Zig Ziglar said, if your sales conversation sounds canned, you need to recant it. It's very much like an actress or actor on Broadway and they're in a show that, if they're fortunate, it's going to run for 3 to 5 years on Broadway, and they're going to go out every single night, and they're going to say the same thing and try to convey the same ideas and emotions 5 nights a week, twice on Saturday and twice on Sunday, and they're going to do that for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years. What would happen if a Broadway actor or actress decided one day, you know, I am so bored with this script. I've done it so much. I just don't like it. I'm going to go out there and wing it. I'm just going to say whatever comes into my mind. How good would the play be that night? And if it continued, how long would it stay open? Probably not very long. And so in order for the script of your sales conversation to be what it needs to be, first of all, at least a portion of it has to be memorized. It has to be rehearsed over and over and over again until it's second nature, until it's so much a part of you that you could do it in your sleep. Sometimes I tell my clients, hey, I promise I won't do this, but I could call you at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, do your sales script. And you wouldn't even have to think about it. I could wake you up out of a dead sleep and you would know it that well. And when that script is so familiar and it's so comfortable that it's like you're sitting out on the front porch with your feet up on the railing, just sipping on some lemonade and talking to a good friend about something that's cool, it is absolute magic. And the conversion ratio goes up and up and up when your sales conversation is scripted in a way that makes it that comfortable. It's so important for us to inject emotion into the things that we're talking about when we're selling. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on, about why emotion is so important. But I want you to think about the movie starring Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise. And the name of the movie is A Few Good Men. Tom Cruise is an attorney. Jack Nicholson is a colonel in the Marine Corps, and he's on trial. And Tom Cruise is asking him questions. And he asks him a question, and he tells Nicholson, I want the truth. And Nicholson looks back at him and says, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. And that's one of the most memorable lines ever in the history of cinema. Anytime that you mention the film A Few Good Men, everybody immediately knows what that line is. You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. And the reason that line is so memorable is because Nicholson put so much emotion into it, and he put so much of himself into that script that it was just absolutely phenomenal. If Nicholson had just said, you want the truth? You can't handle the truth. If he had said it that way, it wouldn't have been memorable at all. It wouldn't have had any impact at all. And you must do the same thing with your sales conversation, folks. It has to be emotional. It has to be impactful. There are 8 steps in a good sales conversation. All of those 8 steps need to be there if you want to be consistently successful in selling your product or your service. And what I'd like to do right now is play a short video for you. And there's a couple of reasons I want to do this. First of all, it will give you a quick overview of the 8 steps in the sales conversation. And secondly, this is a part of the Elite Sales Academy online sales training course that I was telling you about that's going to be available shortly. And I'm going to talk with you a little bit about that later on in our webinar this evening. I just want to show you the video very, very quickly, and it just outlines the 8 steps. And then I want to come back and talk with you about a couple of the steps in some detail. So let's take a look at the video real quickly.
Hey there. Welcome to the Elite Sales Academy. What I'd like to do is take you through the 8 steps in a good sales conversation. We'll be repeating this information at the beginning of each one of the modules that follow because I want you to become very, very familiar with this material. The reason it's important to do that is because if you at some point lose your place in a sales conversation and you lose your words, if you know what the overview is, if you know how a sales conversation is structured and you're so familiar with that it's like second nature, it's very easy to pick up and start again at the place where you left off. Here are the 8 steps in a good sales conversation. The first step is to build rapport. That means that you give your prospect the opportunity to know you, like you, and trust you so that they can comfortably buy from you. You do that by asking good questions, finding out about your prospect and about their life, and finding common ground. When you've established rapport, the next step in the sales conversation is to establish a verbal agreement. The verbal agreement is the table of contents. It deals with what's going to happen in the rest of the sales conversation, what you're going to talk with them about, what questions you're going to ask them at the end, and what's going to happen if they say yes and if they say no. When you've established the agreement, you can move on to step 3, which is to determine your prospect's needs. You do that simply by asking lots and lots of good open-ended questions that let you know where your prospect is, what they need, and what they want. And then you can go on to the next step and help them find a solution to the challenges that they have or the goals that they'd like to attain. When you've clearly explained what's in it for them to do business with you, you are ready to ask them for the sale. Asking for the sale is the step in the process that most salespeople have a lot of trouble with, and they think it's the hardest step in the process. If you've done the first 4 steps properly, asking for the sale is the easiest part of the sales conversation. It's just like falling off a log. Sometimes your prospect will see an obstacle in the pathway to having what they really want to have. And so your job is to answer that objection. And so the next step is to answer that objection and try to help them find a way past that obstacle so that they can have what they want and what they need. The last 2 steps in the sales process are related, and that's follow-up and customer service. It's doing what you promised you would do and being there for your prospect if any challenges arise to help them solve any problems that might come up or giving them information that they might need in the future. And step 8 is to continue to build relationship and rapport with your prospect or your new client long after the sales conversation is finished.
Okay, so those are the steps in the sales conversation. What I'd like to discuss with you next is the reason why emotion is so important in the sales process. Everybody buys on an emotional basis, not a logical basis. We buy because we're emotionally drawn to something, and then later on, we justify the purchase that we made logically. A couple of examples of that. When you go out to buy a new car, there's all kinds of reasons that you can give why you might buy a particular car. Well, you know, it gets really, really good gas mileage, and it has a wonderful safety rating, and it does this and it does that, and it lasts for a long time compared to other cars. And you know, I really researched it, and it's just a really good vehicle. That's not why you buy the car, though. You buy the car because you don't like your old one anymore. It's worn out, it's beat up, it doesn't look good, sometimes it doesn't smell good, and you want a new one. And you like the way that the new one smells, you like the way it drives, you like the way it looks, and you like the way that you feel when you're driving around in it. And you like the attention sometimes that you get from your friends and relatives when they see that you have that beautiful new car. And so you buy that car based on emotion, not based on the fact that it does this and it does that and it does the other thing. If you're going out to buy new clothes, and I'll be a little bit politically incorrect because I'm really old and I can do it if I want to. Ladies, if you go out to buy a new dress, or you go out to buy a new coat or a new purse, you could justify that purchase logically. Well, I really need something new because my other clothes have gone out of style, and so I've got to get something new. And boy, this is really made out of great quality material, and it's going to last for a long time, and I won't have to buy another one for quite a while. And so it's a really, really good investment for me to go ahead and buy this. And that's not why you buy that piece of clothing or that purse. You buy it because it's cute, it looks good on you, and you feel really, really good and really attractive when you're wearing that or when you're carrying that purse. And that's why you buy. It's based on emotion. Even the most analytical person that you would ever run across buys because of emotion. The person that you know, and everybody knows somebody like this in their lives, they before they go out and buy a new toaster, they look at 3 years worth of consumer reports, and they figure out which toaster makes the best toast and which lasts the longest and which has the best safety rating and what the cost comparisons are and all of those kinds of things. And 3 months later, they go out and buy a toaster. And we think, well, surely those folks are making their decision based on logic and there's no emotion involved at all. But you see, the greatest need of somebody who is an analytical social style is to be right. The worst thing that you can say to them is, man, you were wrong. You made a really bad decision there. You didn't do the right thing. And so the decision that they're making, and the reason they do so much research and that they give so much thought and that it takes them such a long time to make their decision, is because they have a need to be right. And that is emotional. It's not logical. So just remember that when you're talking with your clientele, and if you're talking with them about money, or you're talking with them about a home, or you're talking with them about their family and what's going to happen to their family if the breadwinner in the family dies, you're talking with them about things that are extremely emotional. So it may be even truer for your product or service than it is for other people's. I heard it described this way once, and it just made so much sense that I built it into the things that I teach as well. It's like your prospective client is on an island, and they don't like it where they are. They don't like the island where they are. There's a piece of land that blocks the sea breeze, and there's not very much vegetation, and it's hot, and it's steamy, and it's uncomfortable, and there's bugs, and there's alligators that climb up on the shore sometimes and try to bite your leg off. And your client hates it or your potential client hates it there, and they would do anything to be off of that island. Now, it could be that the reason they hate it on that island is because they lost a whole bunch of money in the stock market. They may hate it there because they don't know how they're going to put their kids through college, or they don't know what's going to happen if one of them dies because they don't have any insurance at all, and it's going to be a mess. And they really feel badly about it, and they're worried, and they wake up at night thinking about it and worrying about it. It may be that they're in a house that they really hate, or that they're in a small apartment and their family has grown and they need to be out of there and they need to be into a larger house. They're in an area that's not safe and they want to be safe. And they don't like it where they are. They hate it there. Now, what they can see, and it may be a ways away, probably is a ways away, but what they can see is another island. And man, they would love to be on that island because there's a beautiful sea breeze. There are trees. Are hammocks that are strung between the trees. There's fruit trees. There's a concierge there with nice drinks and hors d'oeuvres. And man, they can see themselves there, but they don't have any idea how to get there. They don't know how to get there. They want to be financially secure, but they don't know how to get there. They want to buy a home, and they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to get there. They don't know how they can make that happen. And they would do anything to be off the island where they are and to be on the island that they can see out there that would just be so wonderful. They'd do anything to do that if they knew how. Now, the challenge is that there's some pretty rough water in between those two islands. And your prospective client doesn't know how to swim. And even if they did know how to swim, man, there's some sharks out there that could just eat them up. And you see where you fit into the picture is that you have the boat. You have the vehicle that can take them from where they are right now to where they'd really like to be. You can take them from being financially insecure and having nothing and no provision made for their family to a place where they're totally financially secure. You can take them from being in a housing situation that they're just miserable in to some place where they're truly happy, and it's not just a house, it's a home. You have the ability to do that for people. And so you see, it really is emotional. And in order to find out what's going on with your prospective client, what they feel emotional about, what they care about, what their situation is, what the challenges are that they're facing, what the goals are that they have, where are they now that they don't like, and where do they want to be that they would absolutely love? What's their ideal situation? How do they feel about things? One of the biggest mistakes that I made for a long time in selling financial services is that when I asked questions, I just concerned myself with the facts and figures. Well, how much insurance do you have, and how much money do you have in investments, and where is it located, and do you have a will, and all those kinds of things. And what I had to learn from long experience in the business is that in order to be really, truly effective in working with potential clients and helping convert them into clients that I could help, was that I had to get down to the emotions that underlay the facts and figures. And so if somebody said to me, well, I used to have $500,000 in my 401k, and then the market tanked, and now I've only got half of that. Instead of just making a note and saying, oh, well, they lost money, so they're probably going to want to do something about that, or they probably have some feelings about that. You have to ask, wow, half of the value of that investment gone, that's really rough. How are you feeling about that? Or how's that affecting your life right now? And you'll get answers like, man, I'm laying awake at night worried about it, and I haven't heard from my broker in the last 2 years, and they're not calling me, and they're not returning calls, and I don't really know what's going on, and I don't know whether I should leave my money there or whether I should move it or what I should do with it. I was getting ready to do a seminar for a group of financial professionals, very much like those of you who are on the call tonight. And came up with a suggestion that I was going to make, and I thought I would test it out first. And so after church one day, I just went around and I talked to about 25 or 30 people, and I just said, as I was talking with them, hey, what do you think about this crazy economy? And some people said, oh, well, I think it's going to get better. Some people said, oh, I think it's going to get worse. Some people said, oh, I think it's kind of flattened out now and it's pretty much going to stay the same. And there was one guy who said, Hugh, I thought I was going to be able to retire this year. And after what's happened in the market the last year or so, I honestly don't know whether I'm going to be able to retire or not. And I asked the people in the seminar that I did, how many of you would like to have a conversation with that guy? And of course, every hand in the room went up. Oh yeah, love to talk to him. And you see, all you have to do is ask questions about what's going on. What do you think? What do you feel about that? What's important to you about whatever the situation is. Talking to somebody about their goals, and they say, well, in this next year, I'd like to earn $100,000 and I'd like to save half of it. Wow, that's a pretty impressive goal. What's important to you about making $100,000 and saving half of it? Why do you want to do that? Find out what's important. Find out how they feel. When you know how people feel, and you know what their goals are, and you know what their challenges are, then you can help them find a solution. Every one of the prospective clients that you talk to probably has some sort of a missing puzzle piece in their financial picture. Sometimes they know exactly what that is. And when you start asking questions, they will tell you exactly what the missing puzzle piece is. Sometimes asking really good questions will point out to them that they have a challenge, that there's a missing puzzle piece in their finances, and something that they really need to pay attention to. And if your service or your product line is the solution to that missing puzzle piece, if you can provide that missing puzzle piece for them, then if you can clearly communicate to them how they can have that puzzle piece supplied, how they don't have to be without that puzzle piece anymore, then you have a new client. What most of your competitors are doing out there, I will guarantee you this is a fact. They're doing now this is a technical term in the sales coaching business, it's show up and throw up. And it's what I call the wee-wee syndrome. Oh, we've been in business for 35 years and we're just the best financial firm in the entire world and we have the best products and services available anyway and we're so much better than our competitors and boy, do we ever have great customer service and boy, do we have a deal for you today. And it's we all the way home. Your prospective client only really has one concern when it comes to having a sales conversation with you. There's only one thing that they really want to know, and that's what's in it for me. If I work with this person, if I trust them to be my financial consultant, my insurance agent, my realtor, what's in it for me? How is it going to make my life better, easier, more profitable, more productive? How am I going to have more peace of mind? How am I going to sleep better at night? How am I going to be sure that I've done the very best job of providing for my family? What's in it for me if I become a client of this person? That's what they're asking themselves. And when we use we and us and our and my statements and just tell them how great we are and how great our company is and how great our products and services are, without tying it into how it can benefit them, we're not giving them, we're assuming that they're going to pick up on that and that they're going to connect the dots. And that's just not necessarily the case at all. So when you're selling and when you're sharing your value statements, use you statements. You can have, you can get, you can do, you can enjoy, you can learn, you can be. And when you can effectively communicate what's in it for them, you will find that you're making sales on a really consistent basis, time after time after time. When you're offering solutions, you must sell back only to the needs that you've uncovered with the high-yielding questions that you've asked. And what that means is that if it's of interest to them, you talk with them about it. If they haven't indicated that they're interested in that, you don't talk with them about it. Sell back to the needs that you've uncovered, the things that are problems for them, the things that are goals for them. When I make that statement, very often I get the question, well, listen, what happens if I don't cover something that is important to them? What if I leave something out? What if I don't tell them everything that I need to tell them? And my answer to that is, if you leave something out, they will ask you. They'll ask you a question. Well, what about this? Or what about that? When you get that question, answer the question just as succinctly and briefly as you can, and then go back to your sales conversation. Now, I want to tell you a story about this. Little Johnny was out playing one day, and he ran inside, and his dad was sitting in the lazy boy reading the paper, drinking a cup of coffee, and Johnny ran up and said, Dad, I got to ask you a question. And Dad said, okay, well, what is it, Johnny? And Johnny says, Dad, where did I come from? And his dad thinks, oh my goodness, this kid's only 4 years old, and he's already asking where he came from. Wow. Well, kids are getting pretty sophisticated nowadays. I guess if he's asking, I really need to tell him. And so he spends the next hour and 45 minutes explaining the birds and the bees to Johnny and telling him all about what everything is and where it is and how it works. And he gets all finished, and he says to Johnny, now, Johnny, do you understand what Daddy just told you? And Johnny says, yeah, Dad, I think so. And Dad says, well, Johnny, I'm curious. What made you ask me where you came from? And Johnny said, well, I was outside playing with Tommy, and he said he was from Chicago, and I just wondered where I was from. You see, sometimes we tell people way more than they ever want to know or need to know because we're trying to educate. Now, the question that Johnny's dad asked at the end of the conversation is the one that you need to ask when you get a question from one of your prospective clients. That's an interesting question. What's most important to you about that? Or what made you ask that question? Or what exactly do you want to know about that? Somebody says, well, do you have universal life? Wow, that's an interesting question. What's important to you about universal life? Or exactly what would you like to know about universal life? And when you know just exactly what they're curious about and what the question really is, then you can answer it, and often it's just a much quicker, much briefer conversation. That I'm going to have to scroll through some of this because one of the promises that I made to you is that I was going to talk with you about client retention and how you can hang on to the clients that you have and not have them leave and go someplace else. And so there are three things that I want to talk with you about as far as customer retention is concerned. The first is that whenever you're offering products and services, it's a great idea to offer three options. One is a lower priced option, one is a medium range option price wise, and then there's a Cadillac. It's the most expensive option that you offer in that. And I'll just give you a couple of examples. In the life insurance business, it could be term life insurance or whole life insurance, or it could be universal life insurance. And so you could have three different things that you compare and that you offer at various price points. If you're selling a house, it could be three homes that you're comparing, and they may be somewhat differently priced. Offer three options. And then when you offer the three options, rather than saying, well, would you like to do this, which is a closed-end question that can be answered yes or no, you can say, those are the three options. My suggestion would be that you go with option number 2 because, and you make a recommendation, and then you ask another question. Which one of those options do you feel would be the best fit for you? And they can't answer that question yes or no. They have to give you an answer. And when it's been their choice and they pick the option that they're going to go with, they're much more likely to stay with that option because it wasn't something that you talked them into. It was something that they decided that they were going to do. And it's much more difficult for a competitor to come in then and say, oh, well, they shouldn't have sold you that. You should have done thus or so, and lure them away from you because it was a decision that they made. The three things that will retain your clients more than anything are customer service, and customer service. I can't emphasize that enough. You need to be checking in with your clients on a regular basis. You need to be doing client reviews on a regular basis. And if you're selling investments, you need to be checking in with your clients anytime that there's anything negative that happens in the marketplace. You need to just be giving them a quick call to say, this is going on. I wanted you to know about it. Here are some options that you might have. Do you want to stay in the situation you're in, or do you feel like it's time to make a move, or you can recommend that it's time for them to make a move? What happens so often when things start to go south in the market is that brokers go into the witness protection program, never to be heard from again until the market improves. And that's not the way to retain your clients. You need to be in touch with them. You need to be connected with them. You need to show them that you really care about them and their situation, and that they're more than just a client, that they're a friend, that there's somebody that you truly, deeply care about their best good. And you need to stay top of mind. If you're an insurance agent, what you want your circle of influence, if the word insurance comes up, they should think about your name. And that's all. Nobody else. If you're in the investment business, if the subject of investments comes up, your name should be what's top of mind. They should think about your name and nothing else and refer people to you. If you're a realtor, you should be top of mind with your clients. I want to tell you the story about 3 realtors, as a matter of fact. One realtor was the realtor who sold my parents the last house that they owned. They moved from Boulder, Colorado to Longmont, Colorado, a trip of about 10 miles. They moved into a much newer house, and they were in their late 70s when they did that. The realtor who sold them the house in Longmont knew that they weren't going to buy another house. The realtor, though, was a very smart salesperson, and he called my mom once every 3 months, almost like clockwork, 90 days. The telephone rang. My mom picked it up because Dad didn't like to talk on the phone, and he would talk with my mom. And he would say, Mrs. Little, Are you still really enjoying the house? Man, I love that stone fireplace in your living room. It's my favorite fireplace of all time. Are you enjoying the fireplace? And how's the maintenance on the house? Is everything okay? Are you having any challenges with that? Are you having any problems with the appliances? And do you have anything heavy that you need help moving, or anything that you need hauled off? Because I'd be glad to help you with that. And my mom would always tell him the same thing, and I think he knew that she would tell him the same thing. She would just say, "Oh, no, that's okay. We're doing just fine." And he would say, "Okay, well, I just wanted to call and check in and make sure everything was okay, and I'll talk with you again soon." And another 90 days, and he would call back and do something similar. Now, this realtor knew that my parents weren't going to buy another house from him. So why would he, air quotes, waste his time calling my mom once every 3 months to talk with her? Well, the reason why, I think you probably have already picked up on. If you made the mistake ever of talking about buying or selling a piece of real estate around my mother, it was, oh, you need to talk to my realtor. He did this and he did that and he's so wonderful. And as far as she was concerned, there wasn't another realtor in the entire universe. This guy hung the moon. She had a stack of his cards, and I have no idea how many people she referred to this realtor, but it was a bunch. And she really tried to talk us into buying from this realtor when we moved to Colorado, when we bought her house. I didn't do that because of realtor number 2, and that's my friend Marty. Marty grew up across the street from me, and we went to junior high and high school together and rode the bus together every day, played football out in the street on the weekends. We were good friends. Marty went into the real estate business, and he started sending us greeting cards. And we didn't even live in town at that time, but he started sending cards at Christmas time, started sending birthday cards, and talked with me on the telephone every now and again. And every year I got a calendar with the schedules of all of the Colorado teams: University of Colorado, CSU, the Rockies, the Avalanche, the Nuggets, the Rockies, all of the teams. Their schedules were on there, and I loved getting those. And so when we moved to Florida, we had Marty sell the house for us. And he did a great job, and he even called and smoothed out some rough spots with the folks in Florida, so that he helped us make sure that we could buy the house down here. And we got a thank you card from him right after the house closed, and then a couple of weeks after that, there was a package that arrived in the mail from Marty. And the package contained a coffee table book with beautiful photographs of Colorado and a note that just said, "I wanted you to be sure to remember where you came from." And since then, we're still receiving cards. We're still receiving the calendar. We're getting those things from Marty all the time. And even though we live in Florida now, several of my clients have made moves to Colorado, and I referred them to Marty, because Marty is a tremendous realtor, and he's more than a realtor. He's a friend. Now, the third realtor is the realtor that we purchased the house from here in Florida. And we did get a thank you card from her about a week after the house closed. That was 3 years ago. How many times do you think I've heard from her since then? Well, if you said 0, you would be correct. We've never heard from her again. And we're in our 60s, and she doesn't think that we're going to buy another house either. So there's not any reason to stay in touch with us. And you know what? Even if I wanted to refer her to somebody who was going to buy a piece of property here in the local area, which I don't really want to refer her to anybody, I don't even remember her name. She hasn't stayed top of mind. I couldn't refer her if I wanted to without going back and looking at a bunch of storage boxes to try to find the transaction record to find out who the heck she was. It's so important to stay top of mind. Sometimes there's repeat business. You know, it's important to stay top of mind even with the people who don't buy from you right now, because 6 months or a year or 2 years down the road, they may decide that they really need the services that you're offering or the products that you're offering. And if you stay top of mind, if you stay in contact with them, if you send them emails now and then, if you make a call now and then, when it's time for them to buy your product or service, they will call you and buy it from you. If you don't stay top of mind, they will not do that. So stay top of mind, folks. Really, really important. I told you that I wanted to talk with you just a little bit about the new program that's coming out. You know, I refer to myself as the sales wizard because I'm so old and I've been doing it for so long and I've learned so much about it that I can really help people shortcut the process. I made a lot of mistakes when I was learning to sell, when I was first selling, and it really slowed down the process of becoming successful at sales. You don't have to slow the process down. You don't have to learn by trial and error. You don't have to learn through the mistakes that you make, the ones that I made and learned from. You can learn to do it better, and you can learn to do it quicker. You can learn to do it right away. You can become a sales wizard very, very quickly because you can learn to avoid the mistakes that I made when I was learning to sell, and you can take advantage of the things that I've learned about successful selling over the last 44 years. And you can get it in very, very short order. The Elite Sales Academy will be coming out this coming month. Tomorrow is the 1st of October, and it'll be coming out very, very shortly. In the Elite Sales Academy, you receive 24 modules of instruction. Now, you saw just a very, very brief clip earlier in the webinar tonight of what's going to be in the 24 modules. You're going to get over 8 hours of material from over 40 years of sales experience in the Elite Sales Academy. You can study and learn about selling at your own pace and in the privacy and comfort of your home or office. And if you have employees, if you have staff, if you have other salespeople who work for you, if you're a broker, you can use this material as a training program for your staff. Now, when I work with clients one-on-one, we normally record the coaching sessions that we do so that they can go back and look at those and they can revisit the material as needed. I was just talking with a client of mine up in Colorado. It's just been a week or so ago. And he told me that he had to replace his entire staff, all of his support staff, and several of his support staff actually do the selling in his chiropractic office. And all of them left for various reasons. And he had to replace everybody. Now, he had a family vacation in Italy planned just right after he replaced these people. So he told them, hey, I'm leaving and the office is going to be closed for a week. And so what I want you to do is I want you to sit down and watch this series of videos about selling. And he said that he got back from Italy and reopened his office after a week, and his staff absolutely hit the ground running because they had learned the basics of how to have a sales conversation. They had learned the basic mindset that they needed to have to sell successfully, and they were able to just go in and start talking to their prospective clients right away and sell to them successfully just from watching those videos. That's what you can have for the people that you're hiring, for your staff. That's what you can have for yourself. Now, those 24 modules go into the mindset that you need to have. They go into the specifics of the 8 steps in the sales conversation. and how to script out your sales conversation so that you're saying the right things at the right time and with the right emotion. There are some modules on time task management, which is very often a big factor for success in sales. And there are also some modules on selling to people who have personality styles that are different from yours, how to adjust your sales conversation so that you can communicate more effectively with those folks and sell to them more successfully. Now, when the program comes out, when it becomes available this next month, it's going to retail at $1,497. That is an absolute bargain. To get all of the information that's in the Elite Sales Academy, that's in these 24 modules, if you were doing it in one-to-one coaching sessions with me or one of my sales coaches, it would cost you $4,000 or $5,000 to get that information. An investment of $1,497 is absolutely incredible. It's a tremendous value. And you know what? You guys have been so kind as to spend time with me in this webinar tonight that I wanted to do something really special for you. So if you enroll in the Elite Sales Academy right away, you don't have to invest $1,497. The pre-sale investment for this program is only $997. It saves you $500 right off the bat. And you can have those 24 modules to train yourself, to train your staff. You have it there to go over again and again and again. You have it for new people who come into your organization. And it's only $997 for 8 hours of great sales training information. I decided, though, that wasn't even enough. Even that $500 wasn't enough. And so I decided that I would offer you 5 bonuses. Now, to enroll in the Elite Sales Academy, it's really easy. All you have to do is go to redcapsalescoaching.com. And right up at the top of the page, there's a link that says Elite Sales Academy. And when you click that, you'll find a Buy Now button down at the bottom of the page. All you have to do is click it, put in your credit card information or your PayPal information, and just as soon as the program comes out and goes online, you will have complete access to it. Now, there are also 5 bonuses. You get a personally autographed copy of the new edition of my book, Take the Icky and Scary Out of Sales. If you use the things in this book as you're preparing your selling scripts, and you utilize the things that you learn in the video program, you will be a sales wizard in very, very short order. You'll become great at selling your products and services very quickly. Bonus number 2 is a members-only site. And in that members-only site, you'll not only be able to access the videos, you'll be able to access blogs and white papers and other videos by me and others of my coaches and others of my friends who just will give you tremendous value. And in addition to that, on that membership site, there will be a complimentary 45-minute conversation with me, with the sales wizard. And during that 45-minute conversation, you'll be able to talk about the specifics of your business and your sales, the challenges that you're running into, the things that you'd like to do better, the things that you'd like to do differently. You'll get sales tips, you'll get strategies, you'll get ideas. And there's absolutely no charge for that session. And there's also no pressure and there's no obligation. Just a polite conversation about your business and your sales. Bonus number 4 is within the membership site, a weekly 20-minute online group call with me or one of our Red Cap sales coaches. We'll answer questions that are sent in, things that the people in the group want to know about concerning sales. We'll give you tips, we'll give you strategies, we'll give you all of the latest up-to-date things that we're teaching. And it'll be a really valuable resource for you on an ongoing basis. And bonus number 5 is that there will be a private Facebook group that you can be a member of. And you'll be able to ask questions there. You'll be able to leave comments there. You can share ideas and you can connect with the other people in the group. You can build relationships and rapport. Some of them may become your clients. Some of them may become friends and power partners. Some of them may refer other people to you. And you'll get strategies and ideas and success from them as well. You know, birds of a feather flock together, and the people who are going to be part of the Elite Sales Academy are going to be extremely successful in their businesses and in their sales. Hang around with those folks. Be part of this program. And again, the entire program, the 24 modules, all 5 bonuses, the pre-sale investment is only $9.97. And you save $500 right off the bat just on the video program. So take action. Tonight, just go to redcapsalescoaching.com and click the Elite Sales Academy tab and enroll for this tremendous program that's going to be rolling out very, very shortly. Now, I promised you that I was going to wind up the evening by talking to you about the 3 most important things that you need to know if you want to be consistently successful at selling. The very first thing is that your focus has to be in the right place. When you go out to sell, if you're thinking about the amount of commission that you're going to earn if you make the sale, your focus is in the wrong place. If you're thinking about your sales manager who just came up to you before you left to go on the call and said, boy, you really better sell something this week because your job's in jeopardy, and if you don't start selling, you're going to be gone. If you're thinking about that, your focus is in the wrong place. If you're thinking about the disagreement that you had with your wife, or the challenges you're having with your kids, or the stack of bills on your desk that you don't know how you're going to pay, your focus is in the wrong place. You've got to put your focus where it belongs, and that is on your prospective client. You have to have your focus on their challenges, their goals, their feelings, their thoughts, their needs, their wants, what's going on for them in their situation. The reason that that's so important is that there is an unseen energy that passes between a salesperson and a prospect. And your prospective client will be able to feel it if your focus is not on helping them, being present with them, being concerned about what they're concerned about. You've had it happen to you. People have tried to sell you things, and it might have been something that you wanted, and the price was fine, and they really did a pretty good job of explaining it. And you got out to the end of the conversation, and they asked you to become a client or a customer, and you just got that feeling in the pit of your stomach that there's just something that's not quite right here. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm really nervous, and I don't want to go forward. So I'm just going to tell them that I want to think about it for a few days, and I'll call them if I decide to do business with them, or I've got to talk to someone, or I'm going to get some other bids. And what's going on most of the time when that happens is that your client, your prospective client, feels that your focus is in a different place than on them. So you've got to keep your focus in the right place. The second thing is that you have to remember what your job is. It is not your job to just go out and have a nice conversation with somebody and hope that something happens. It's not your job to educate people and tell them everything that you know about your product or service. It's not your job to decide whether your prospect can afford your product or service or whether they can't. So many salespeople make that mistake. I did that once early on in my sales career. And what happened is that I just happened to have duty at the front desk while the receptionist was out to lunch. I was working with a financial planning firm, and all of the planners in the building had agreed that we would take turns doing that. And it was a summer day in Modesto, California, quite hot out. Nothing much was happening in the office, and there were about 5 or 6 of the planners that were gathered around the front desk, and we were all just shooting the breeze. This old pickup truck came pulling into the parking lot, and it was disreputable. I mean, it needed a paint job. It was held together by baling wire, and it had dirt and dust and who knows what all over it. The driver got out of that old pickup truck, and he was an old cowboy. Had on a pair of jeans with holes in it, and a western shirt, and a great big belt buckle, and an old slouch hat, cowboy hat. It was all beat up, and a pair of boots. And folks, you wouldn't have believed this pair of boots. I mean, this guy had been out tromping around in the corral or the barn or someplace, and he hadn't bothered to clean up before he came to town. And he headed toward the door of his office, and planners scattered to the 4 winds and locked themselves in their office. They didn't want to waste their time talking to this guy. And I must be very, very honest with you and tell you this was very early in my sales career, and I would have been one of the people who ran in the office and locked the door and didn't want to talk to this guy at that stage in my career. If I hadn't had desk duty, if I hadn't had to stay there, I wouldn't have. This guy came in the door, and I said, "Hi, how can I help you?" And he said, "Well, I just wanted to talk to somebody about investing." And my thought was, of course I didn't say this, but my thought was, yeah, fat chance. You're going to have anything to invest. Well, I took him into a little office right off the lobby so I could watch the desk, and we started talking, and it turns out that this gentleman owned 3 McDonald's franchises, 2 Burger Kings. He had a Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Wendy's. He owned a huge ranch outside of Modesto. He had grapevines, he had row crops, he had horses, he had cows, he had acres and acres and acres of ground. He was a multi-gazillionaire. And over the next few months, he invested about $3.5 million with me. That taught me a lesson. If you are prejudging according to appearance, you're making a huge mistake. It's not your job to figure out whether somebody can afford your products or services or whether they can't. It's up to them to make that decision. It's not your job to talk people into doing what you want them to do. That's not your job. Your job, plain and simple, is to find out what your prospect really needs and wants. And if your product or service can supply what they need or want, it's your job to very clearly communicate to them what's in it for them to do business with you. It's up to them to decide whether they can afford it or whether they want to afford it or whether they want to work with you. Now, if they see an obstacle in their path to having what they want and need, you can answer that objection, and that is part of your job, is to help them pass that obstacle so they can have what they want and need. It's never your job, though, to talk them into doing something that they don't want to do, or to talk them into doing what you want them to do. The third and final thing that I want to suggest to you once again is that you stop doing sales presentations and start having sales conversations. If you do that, you will find that your conversion ratio will go up and up and up. Your sales will increase dramatically, and your income will skyrocket. The Elite Sales Academy, the pre-sale investment for the 24-module online sales training program, 8 hours of content, only $997. You save $500 right off the bat, and you get access to all of those 5 bonuses. You get an autographed copy of the book, Take the Icky and Scary Out of Sales. You get the online group program, the membership site. You get a free 45-minute consult with the Sales Wizard. You get the free 20-minute weekly group telephone call with me or one of the Red Cap sales coaches. And you get membership in the private Facebook group. All of that for only $997 right now. Jump on it right away. Don't procrastinate. To enroll, all you have to do is go to redcapsalescoaching.com, click the Elite Sales Academy tab, and enroll for the program. And you will have immediate access to the program just as soon as it goes online. Folks, I want to thank you again for taking your time to spend with me tonight to talk about selling. I hope that this has been a valuable experience for you. I want to wish you all the very best in your sales and in your business and in your life. So make it profitable, make it fun, good selling, and good night to you.